You're listening to the Law Dad Roy podcast with your host, Roy Willie, a Charleston-based personal injury lawyer licensed in multiple states. From courtrooms to the coast, Roy brings you legal insights, real stories, and honest conversations that matter.
Welcome, everyone, to the Law Dad Roy podcast. We are so excited to be here today with attorney Sam Moore. Sam is an immigration attorney, and he just taught me more about immigration law than I learned in all 3 years of law school and our little conversation before the podcast. So y'all are in for a real treat. We're going to get to know Sam. We're going to get to know a little bit about immigration law, which is really obviously important, particularly with the current events that are going on in the United States. And so welcome to the podcast, Sam.
Well, thank you, Roy. I'm really happy to be here.
We were talking before the podcast started, and you're actually an attorney, but you're licensed in Missouri.
Correct.
Okay, you live and practice in Charleston.
Correct.
But you're able to practice in every immigration court around the country.
Correct. So immigration law, federal administrative law, it's bound by the Immigration and Nationality Act, which started in the 50s, been amended a few times through the years, and the Code of Federal Regulations, and then the Board of Immigration Appeals, Circuit Court decisions, and Supreme Court decisions.
Yeah, complicated. So we'll unpack some of that. So where are you from?
I'm from West Virginia, actually.
Okay, so tell us the Sam story of how we went from not Charleston, West Virginia. Charleston, West Virginia. Okay, did you get on the wrong flight one day?
We just decided, my wife and I, one day, we were like, we're tired of this Charleston. Let's just take it up in a new one, but we don't really want to change the whole I'm from Charleston bit.
Okay.
So we kept it as is.
I like that. How did you get licensed in Missouri?
I took the bar in West Virginia. I struggled with bar passage.
Yeah.
And for anyone out there, it's possible to get licensed. It is.
Yeah.
But I struggled with bar passage. I ended up getting a 262 on my exam.
Okay.
And West Virginia required a 270. So I just moved my score to Missouri, ended up using a special provision in the West Virginia rules to get admitted for practice with Legal Aid of West Virginia and the Public Defender's Office in West Virginia.
Okay. Both
fantastic working experiences.
Yeah.
And my wife was like, all right, I want to move. And so I had to figure out what the next step was from there. And so I found a firm that was doing immigration law, tried it out, really enjoyed it, and decided to venture off on my own.
Yeah, that's awesome. So when you started doing immigration law, were you in West Virginia or were you already here?
I was here.
Okay.
So my last job in West Virginia was the Public Defender's Office, and I loved that work. It was fantastic work, really rewarding.
Yeah.
And then when my wife wanted to move here, I found a firm that was offering just immigration purposes. I told them, I'm not licensed in South Carolina. They're like, not a big deal. You can do practice across the country, and I have so far. And I, again, took it up, really enjoyed it, liked the clients. The work is rewarding. It's difficult. It's complicated, but it is definitely rewarding.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize, we go to law school and they say, okay, we're going to teach you how to think. Did you learn how to think in law school? Yeah.
I think it got worse. Actually.
So, but the point of law school, when you get out, to actually become a lawyer, it's not just graduating law school. You have to take this test, which, at least when I took the test, did not really bear any resemblance to most of what we learned in law school.
No.
Fair?
Fair.
And so you did the UBE, I gather, right?
Yeah.
And so when I took it, it was a specific South Carolina, and then I did another UBE and during COVID and all that, and got licensed in Kentucky. And anyway, neither here nor there. But they spit out a score. Mm-hmm. Some states require certain scores. Other states can set their own score limit, right? But you can take... this is a really interesting thing about practicing law. So you can learn all the law in law school. Did you go to law school in West Virginia?
No, I went to the University of Dayton in Ohio.
Okay, so you went to law school in Ohio. So most of the state-specific law that they were probably teaching you was Ohio law.
Yep.
Right? Okay, so then you go to West Virginia to take the bar, and it is not based on Ohio law, right? So you take this bar, and they give you a score, and then you can use that score. You might not be able to be licensed where you actually learn the law, but you can go be licensed in Missouri.
Yep.
And that's how it works.
I took a little state-specific component in Missouri, which I believe was open book at the time. I don't know if it still is. It's been a few years, but it's, I did it on, I think, my wife's iPad mini.
Yeah.
did it from home, and it was just a little open book test. And
that's awesome.
That was all it took to get really licensed in Missouri.
Yeah, so you get that, and then obviously you find a passion for immigration law. Mm-hmm. That's 100% of what you do.
All of what I do.
And it is a type of law where you can practice anywhere in the country.
Yep. And so if we ever get tired of being in Charleston, well, obviously our base is here.
Is there another Charleston? West Virginia, South Carolina?
Well, we West Virginia also has Charlestown, so I get to try that one.
Okay.
I could do that one.
Yeah, you could do that one. That's pretty funny. So when did you move to South Carolina?
I moved here December of 2023, right before I started my job in January 2024.
Okay.
I was there for just about 5 months, and then I was like, all right, I'm breaking free.
Learned what I needed to learn. I'm out of here.
And I jumped, and I feel like, you know, the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yes.
Like the less you know about something, the more confident you get. I jumped right when I was at the peak of that Dunning-Kruger effect, and then really quickly hit the bottom.
Right.
I was like, oh, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And so the last year and a half, it's just been a massive learning experience, and it's been fantastic because I've really learned what immigration law can do and what it does for these people.
Yeah, I mean, immigration law opens up the American dream to people that don't have access to it. I think a lot of people don't realize that, you know, in countries around the world, it doesn't matter, you know, how hard you work or how smart you are. All that matters is what family you were born into and where you start.
Yeah.
And that sort of sets your trajectory, which is very different than, you know, when people get here and they can earn their way. Yeah. You know, forward. And it's a powerful thing. Speaking of earning your way forward, obviously as part of that, you also had to start your own law firm. Right. Which is its own beast.
It is a bear.
Tell us about that journey.
I quit my job with that much notice to my previous employer.
Yeah.
For that I do apologize to my previous employer. Right. I did just kind of jump into it, filed with the South Carolina Secretary of State. So it is a locally licensed business, but focus on following the bar rules out of Missouri, so it gets a little complicated in what we're doing, and we're figuring it out as we go. Really,
yeah.
Especially that first summer, that was a big learning experience for us.
Yeah. So and people don't realize, like, when you quit a law firm job, there's a lot of considerations that go into that, like the clients, whose clients, you know, they belong to. The clients get to pick at the end of the day. Right. Like, they don't have to stay with the lawyer, they don't have to stay with the law firm. Like, you have to give them, you know, an option, assuming the lawyer is willing to work on the client's cases. If they're not, then, you know, just by default, usually they stay. But, you know, the whole when you say I didn't leave with a lot of notice, a lot of people hear that and they're like, oh, that's probably not the right thing. But there's a lot of considerations that go into leaving a law firm.
And for the notification to all my clients, it was out of my own pocket that I paid for the mailing fees, all the filing fees for the motions to withdraw and everything. And that took a few months to get completed after I had left. But we did notify everybody, and most of them stayed with my old firm. There were a couple that came with me. Just, so if I say a couple, I mean two. Yeah. And it was well after I had fully told them, like, I am not part of this law firm. Your case will be assigned to a new lawyer. I'm just stepping away and taking that. And then they were like, no, I want to do a consultation with you. And then they came with me.
What has been the hardest part of starting your own law firm?
In the middle of an election year, I would say that was probably the worst decision I could have made, because the rules have just completely done a 180. Right. It was a lot looser under the Biden administration. I will say that there's something called prosecutorial discretion. The government chooses which cases they want to prosecute. And they set a cutoff date. I can't remember right now, but I think it was before November 1st, 2020. If you had entered before that date, the government was willing to just dismiss your case out of court, so you didn't have to go to court, because there's such a backlog of immigration cases. Over, I think it's 3 million, maybe 4 million at this point. Yeah. But they would just dismiss those cases out.
So the theory, I mean, I guess, was the best way, you know, to stop having a problem is to stop having it. So if we have a backlog, you know, let's just pause the backlog. Those people have been here. If they haven't been arrested for some violent crime and they're not in jail or whatever the case may be, obviously they're producing, they're working, right? So let's just start on the new people and, you know, try to get a better process going forward.
And that was the intent, because even right now we're seeing, or I guess last year, we were seeing cases be scheduled into 2027 and 2028. And it was just, the backlog is just immense. So it's, if we get these people who haven't been committing crimes, who've presented good moral character to the country, and getting their case dismissed out of court doesn't mean that they have work authorization anymore. It doesn't mean that they have status. It doesn't mean they can adjust status in the future. It just means the government wasn't actively seeking to remove them from the country.
So what about that change? I mean, did they reopen the backlog?
So essentially, day one, they expanded a process, what we call expedited removal. Yeah. Which used to be if you were caught within 100 air miles of a U.S. U.S. border, not land border, just border in general. So all of South Carolina, almost all of South Carolina is included in that 100 air miles. And then within 2 years of entry, you could be expedited removed from the United States and just sent without a hearing at all. So they've expanded that up to anywhere in the United States and at any time. So if they just find you within the United States, you've never been in court, you have no status whatsoever, expedited removal, you're out, no hearing whatsoever. Right. So with these people who had their cases dismissed previously, they weren't in court. They were in the United States without status. The government had told you, hey, we're not actively seeking to remove you. And then all of a sudden, one day, policy changed. Hey, we're seeking to remove you. And now you're not subject to a hearing. Get out.
So a lot of these people that thought they sort of had it figured out, they were probably, more open about their status because they weren't as concerned about being removed. That just totally upended their lives.
It did. Complete change. And then we've had a couple of Board of Immigration Appeals decisions, the BIA decisions that have come out that have completely affected the way that the bond procedures in immigration work.
Yeah.
So there's a few statutes under the Immigration Nationality Act that subject people to mandatory detention, meaning if you come in, there is no way you're being released.
Right.
BIA has now expanded that to mean anyone who comes into the United States without authorization is subject to mandatory detention. And that's not the way it always was, but that's the way it is now. And
that means jail.
That means jail.
Yeah.
That means it's
mandatory jail.
It's if you've ever been to an ICE detention facility, I'm sorry, it's not a pleasant place to be. It is exactly like visiting a local regional jail.
Yeah. Except the one in Florida.
That's
a whole different
case.
Story.
Yeah. That's just a couple of chain link wires and cots. Or fences and stuff. But it's intense now. And now there's just the Board of Immigration Appeals just took the ability for immigration judges to make determinations on any bond whatsoever. They've just taken that away for anybody who entered the country without inspection. So now the only people eligible for bond are those who have been detained, who entered on a visa, and they're not subject to mandatory detention.
So if you get, if you enter or whatever and you get picked up and now you can't get bond, so you're going to jail automatically, you probably don't have the best network in the US if you've come from somewhere else, your family is somewhere else, whatever. How do these people even get representation? How do they find a lawyer?
So it's typically word of mouth within detention facilities.
Yeah.
And I hate that that's the way it is, but it is.
Yeah. Is there public defenders for these people?
No. So there are pro bono organizations that handle this, but there aren't government appointed attorneys.
Right.
You are allowed an attorney at no expense to the government. It's not a constitutional right. It's because it's a quasi judicial system. But you can have an attorney at no expense to the government representing your proceedings.
That's interesting. You're not doing a whole lot of those detention cases.
No, we don't take too many of them. I will take the consultations, absolutely. We do free consultations, so it's at no charge to them.
Right.
But I try to give my best assessment of what their case is. And if they want me to take their case, I will take their case. And I'll give my full, honest opinion of it. Obviously, we can never promise any result in a case.
Right.
But
it's really hard right now. The government is dead set on removing these people.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to take people's money if you know what the outcome is going to be.
Right.
And we do the same thing all the time. We have to tell people we're not saying you don't have a case, but you don't have a case that it would make sense for you to pursue because there's going to be costs associated with that. You have to file things. And at the end of the day, you're just going to go through a very long process and you're not going to get the result you want. Same thing in immigration. So how are your clients, I know you say you have clients all over the country, how are your clients finding you?
So we do a lot of Instagram.
Yeah, you do a lot of Instagram.
So we've got one.
Yeah, tell us the handle so people can look it up.
It's at More Immigration LLC. More Immigration was taken, so we had the LLC in there, which is run by my wonderful wife who's sitting behind the cameras over here.
Yeah.
She does all of the marketing for us.
She's on the Instagram. I saw her on Instagram before, so she's not just behind. She's also in front of the camera.
We've got our 3 dogs that 2 of them make regular appearances. My wife's got a vendetta against one of them, so she doesn't make too much of an appearance on the Instagram. But they do appear. Sometimes they got the dog.
What are the dogs' names?
So we've got Iris is our puppy.
Okay.
She's we think a cattle dog mix. We're not really sure.
Yeah.
She's looking less and less like a cattle dog every day. We've got Blue, who's just a pure hound.
Okay.
No idea what's in there. But
it's good West Virginia name.
West Virginia. Yeah, she's a nut. And then we've got Willow, who is we think she's an older Australian cattle dog. She's toothless. She's losing hair everywhere.
Yeah.
She's a lovely dog, and we love to have her in there.
Yeah.
And all of them love our paralegal, Cross Turner, who also makes appearances.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, I watched the Office tour.
Yeah.
With Cross. Yeah, he was very animated. He did a good job. So.
Oh, yeah. He's a wonderful paralegal.
So a lot of your clients are finding you on social media.
Yes, and so we do one paid ad that runs, and we've got our disclaimers and everything on there.
Yeah.
But then our regular account, we just try to be funny. We put out some serious videos about, especially when there's major changes in law. But we get people who message us in the comments. We say, all right, here's our link for scheduling consultations, and if they call in, they'll speak to either cross if they speak Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, French, or they'll speak to Lauren if they speak English.
Yeah. What is the language breakdown of like your clientele?
I would say right now it's probably like 80% Spanish speaking, maybe 5% Portuguese speaking, and then the remainder would be mostly English. We do have a few Haitian clients, so we have to contract out for a Haitian Creole translator, which is not a language I'd ever heard before being in this field, and it's that's the bulk of what we hear. Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting. People don't realize like Charleston as a major port of entry, like we have so many nationalities and languages that are like coming into the U.S. here. My kids go to a school called Charleston Bilingual Academy, and they work with Lutheran Services like on some of their outreach programs, and I forget, but it's in the teens, like the number of languages that their programs have to be offered in like every single week, because there's that many people that speak that language, Haitian Creole, for example, is a big one that typically you wouldn't think of, because in the news and the media, like when they're talking about immigration and all this stuff, I mean, they're, focused on Mexico really, but Central America, South America.
Actually, have very few Mexican clients now that I ever think about it. There are some, but it's not as many. We've got most of our clients from Honduras, Nicaragua, Venezuela.
Just coming in through Mexico. But Mexico, I mean, I guess it's not as bad as it used to be, apparently. I mean, I don't know.
There's some places that are very bad. There's some places that are very safe, and it just for what most of these people are seeking, which is asylum, it's difficult to prove that you are going to be persecuted in the entire country of Mexico based off of your membership in a particular social group, which is the legal standard.
Right.
And especially if there's a safe place in Mexico, like you could go to, if you're living in Ciudad Juarez, you could theoretically move to Mexico City.
Right.
You might not know anyone in Mexico City.
Right.
It might not be feasible for you to move there, but in the immigration court's eyes, if there's a safe place for you to live, why does the U.S. have to grant you asylum from your own country?
But I mean, to that person, it's pretty high stakes.
Right.
Like, it's like if you really believe, if you're part of this family and there's another family in control of this area and they're like killing people, it's like FAFO, like you only get one shot at this thing. Yeah. So, the best choice for that person, they think, is get out. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, well, if I move 50 miles away, maybe they won't come find me here. Like, that's not feasible. So you can certainly understand, or at least I can understand, why people, go through that process. But it's not just that. I mean, we have so many like European immigrants that, overstaying visas. Like, what's the most common thing you see with like European immigrants?
So we do get a lot of overstays, which they've announced a crackdown on overstay adjustments. So in order to adjust status in the U.S., so hypothetically, if a person from the United Kingdom enters on a tourism visa, which actually they're going to enter on a visa waiver program called ESTA. They actually waive all rights to appear before an immigration judge when they enroll in ESTA. So if they come in, they overstay their ESTA, they get married to an American citizen, that person wants a petition, then we have the ability to adjust because that person had lawful entry to the United States.
Okay.
Visa overstay is forgivable, unauthorized work is forgivable. It's under section 245C of the Immigration Nationality Act, in case you want to look it up. We have the ability to adjust, but right now, if there are any issues whatsoever, it's essentially an immediate expedited removal.
And what does that mean, like expedited removal? Like, what does that process look like? If someone, we hear about all these people getting picked up, like, there was some party in Batson, South Carolina or whatever, and they picked up like 80 people just randomly one night. I mean, the people are probably like half drunk. I can't imagine that was like a very orderly detention process, but whatever, they did it. So what does expedited removal look like from that point of when these people get picked up?
So if they're subject to expedited removal, that means they'll go to a detention facility. Usually they start the local ICE office which for Charleston is up in just North Charleston.
Yeah.
They'll start at the local ICE office. They'll be detained there. They'll get processed, put into the system. If they are not subject to expedited removal, say they have a pending asylum application, they have to go through their court process. But if they have nothing pending before the court, say they're even in court but haven't had their first hearing yet, there's a potential for ICE to just dismiss their notice to appear and get them out of court, subject them to expedited removal. From there, if they're in South Carolina, they'll move to either Stewart Detention Facility in Lumpkin, Georgia, or Folkston Detention Facility in Folkston, Georgia. Both are very unpleasant places to be, very, very rural, very hard to get to. But they'll be put there, they'll be staged for processing, probably moved to another detention facility depending on where they're being removed to, and then put on a flight. And
how long does that take?
It's supposed to move within a couple weeks.
Wow.
We see some people move much slower than that, and then we end up having to file, well, I can't file them because I'm not licensed here, but other immigration attorneys file habeas lawsuits against the government saying, look, you're just holding this person without any reason. They're not under imminent threat of removal.
Right.
Let them out and give them a chance to go to an ICE check-in and prove that they're moving towards getting out of the country.
And the one thing, they got the wrong guy apparently. He wasn't even like elite. I don't know the full story, but I mean, just kind of reading, some of the news stories, it was like this guy was just like a dad, and they just like shipped him to some foreign country. I mean,
and that happens. I read a couple months ago, there was a large group, I believe it was Pakistani immigrants and some Western African country, I can't remember which one it was, but they come into the United States right around the same time, and then they were immediately turned away and they were moved to Panama.
Yeah.
The Pakistanis had never been to Panama, the Africans had never been to Panama, but that was where the government decided to remove them to.
And when they removed them to these places, they just, obviously in the one case, they were going to some other facility that I'm sure we were overpaying the government to, host these people, so to speak. Like, are they going to facilities in these countries? Or are they just...
I'm really not sure. I know the El Salvador situation is completely different because the government's alleging these people are members of MS-13, not providing due process. But if they are moved to those facilities, I know in El Salvador, the CCOT, the Center for Confinement and for Terrorism Suspects, I don't know what the full name is. I know it's called CCOT, but I know that if you go in there, you are almost assured never to get out ever.
Right.
There's a handful of people now who the government was forced to bring back by the Supreme Court and say, okay, these people were wrongly removed from the country. It's the government's job to bring them back. But I know for El Salvador, yes, they're put in that facility. For countries like Panama, South Sudan, I'm not sure if they're putting facilities in those places.
just take some Pakistanis and dump them in Panama. They don't speak the language. They don't have any
community. They've got it. They thought they were coming to the United States to maybe seek asylum, maybe some other immigration relief, and all of a sudden, nope, you were put into Panama, and the government of Panama is then subject to removing you back to your home.
So if someone is subject to expedited removal, they have a very limited window, to get in touch with an attorney,
right? And they likely won't have the opportunity at all to call an attorney because
they don't get one call. Or whatever.
Typically, no. It's if they get money loaded into their commissary fund, then they can call out. But that's about it.
Oh wow!
But it's essentially they have to just explain to their deportation officers, "I'm afraid to return to my country. I'm afraid to return to my country." And they have to go through this either credible fear or reasonable fear interview. Different standards for both of them. But credible fear just means that there's at least the acknowledgement that this person does have a legitimate fear to return to their country and should be afforded the chance to apply for asylum under international law.
And they're making this case to who? If they don't have a lawyer?
It's just their deportation officer.
So they get appointed a deportation officer in
just
the
some ICE employee who works at a detention facility or a processing center, and then they're the ones who are in charge of hearing, okay, well, this is, I believe that this person has at least credible ground for a credible fear interview. Then it gets referred to an asylum officer who hears the case and then makes the decision. And
I'm guessing a very small percentage of people are getting referred to asylum officers.
That's my understanding right now of what's going on in there.
Doesn't seem like that's probably the most fair necessarily process. So if people really need to have a plan. If you are in a position where your papers aren't quite straight, or you are over on your visa, or there's any way at all that the government might think, or not even, they don't even have, charge you with, or whatever the language is, that, I mean, you got to have a plan.
Right.
And, you know, first of all, you got to go on Instagram and follow More Immigration LLC so that you at least got that.
And then get a free consultation.
Free consultation, you know, and if Sam can't help you necessarily with your case, he at least knows about all the resources, you know, that are out there that might be able to help you, you know, with your potential case. I mean, because this thing is a mess.
It's absolutely a mess.
Yeah.
If I can't help, I'm plugged into a lot of immigration attorneys around the country where there's, you know, WhatsApp groups, Facebook groups that we're all parts of, and we're able to at least communicate, try to bounce ideas off each other. And if I don't have the capacity to help somebody, I will try to get them contact information for another attorney, somebody who has either more experience than me, someone who's bigger resources than me, somebody who's been through this exact situation before and might know what to do, and just have those available.
Yeah.
I try to help people no matter what the circumstance, even if I can't directly help.
Yeah, it's a crazy situation. Well, we appreciate obviously what you're doing. It's really important, particularly now, you know, in the climate we find ourselves in. It's you know, it's certainly a scary world. I mean, it might be a scary world even if you do have a U.S. birth certificate, you know, because
it could take your birthright citizenship away from you.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so the whole thing is just wild. But, you know, obviously, thanks for what you do. Thanks for being on the podcast. Everyone go follow Sam on Instagram. Give us a subscribe down below. Thanks for tuning in to the Law Dad Roy podcast, and we will be back at you next week with another episode.